Well, today we acquired Koskue Fukudome from the Chicago Cubs for 2 minor league players, Abner Abreu and Carlton Smith. In Koskue, we get a left-handed hitting outfielder who's got a very good approach at the plate, demonstrated ability to get on base, as well as play a very good right field. He's got some versatility in the outfield. He can play center field as well as right, and is a good fit on the team. And we feel today we're a better team than we were yesterday. So hopefully this helps us improve offensively and give us a better opportunity to score a few more runs. But we'll continue to work to try to improve the team from here, but at least this gives us a good starting point.
How likely is it that you may make another trade for the demo?
It's hard to characterize how likely a deal is just because of the fluidity involved, but I can tell you we're working hard to continue to try to improve the team.
What about his patience at the plate? Can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, that was a really appealing aspect for us, the fact that he's demonstrated not only this year but throughout his career the ability to get on base. I think his on-base percentage would be second on our team right now, and that's an attribute that should help us score runs regardless of where he hits in the lineup.
The 2 kids that you gave up, were they the ones that were asked for, or were there others and you kind of had to shift to that?
Well, it was a negotiated process. Typically the way it works is there's a number of names exchanged before you finally settle on the guys that end up being in the deal.
With Koskue, was there a no-trade clause that he had that you had to work around?
There was. Koskue waived his no-trade clause to come to Cleveland. We were one of a handful of teams on his no-trade, and I think in the end, our situation, our competitiveness, as well as the opportunity to play regularly, made it a compelling opportunity for him.
Maybe talk about him playing center as well. So you feel confident that he can play other positions?
We do. He's demonstrated to be a good outfielder in right field, very good in right field. He's also played 100-plus games in center field, I think, in 2009, so he has some versatility. There's a potential he may even get some balls in left field as well.
Chris, as you talk about getting other guys into the system, is it easier or harder when you look at a guy who may have been in the system before and maybe thought about bringing him back?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any advantage, disadvantage in that?
Players that we've had and have... I think having familiarity with players is certainly helpful. One, in terms of, especially when you look at only 60-plus games, to the extent they can come over, get settled quickly, feel comfortable, and contribute. That's obviously an important part of making a trade this time of year. So there's some level of familiarity certainly could help that transition.
You speak to Buck, who you designate options in.
It was a difficult decision to designate Travis Buck, but in the end, we felt with the addition of Koskue, he would largely displace a lot of the at-bats that Travis was getting to this point, and we needed a clear spot on our 40-man roster. So in the end, it was a difficult decision, but we felt it was the right fit based upon our alternatives.
Chris, how, if at all, did what happened here yesterday change the way you were looking at the trade deadline?
It didn't really. I mean, our focus is, if we had our preference, we would have made a deal 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. But ultimately, there wasn't a trade partner to do a deal with at that point. So we've been working continuously from that point, and ultimately, it's more coincidental than anything that the timing happened to work out, where it just happens to be the day after a no-hitter.
Chris, considering you played quite substantially under 500 for the last month or two, contrasted to the great start, what would you say to those that say maybe you shouldn't even be buyers, that you just kind of pull back?
Well, I think almost regardless of how you get here, the fact is that we're in contention in late July, and we're appreciative of those opportunities, and we want to do what we can to try to capitalize on it. And we'll continue to do everything we can within reason to try to find other ways to improve the team as we approach the deadline to better position us to potentially win the Central in the second half of the season.
If this is all you do before Sunday at 4 o'clock, how much do you feel like the team has been improved through the ability to make these transactions here at the deadline?
Well, I feel like we're a better team now than we were a few days ago, and I think as we look forward, I'm optimistic because it's a very young team that's got some experience in the first half that should benefit from that experience in the second half, and hopefully some of the guys that we've brought up from our system will produce a little bit more in the second half, and then we expect to get the return of 2 very good players, Shin-Soo Choo and Grady Sizemore as well, that will have some impact on our team. We don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but we're confident that both guys will be back in time to have an impact. So looking at all of those factors together, I'm optimistic about the second half, but I'd like to find other avenues to try to continue to improve the team over the next few days and even into August. There will be opportunities certainly in August after the non-waiver trade deadline on July 31st to continue to improve the team.
Chris, I think Chu said he could be back by August 15th. Is that a realistic timeline, or do you think it'll be later than that?
Hard to say. He is ahead of schedule based upon his rehab progression and the calendar for what he's supposed to be doing at different dates. So from that standpoint, that's very encouraging. But until he really starts swinging a bat and progresses through more aggressive baseball activities, that time frame's difficult to pinpoint. But we're encouraged by the way he's progressed so far and are optimistic that he'll be back sooner rather than later. And if that ends up being mid-August, that's a great outcome for us.
How about Grady? Ahead, behind?
Further, I mean, he's met all the checkpoints so far. I think it's just going to be a question of how well his knee continues to respond, how well he heals from the sports hernia. He's already walking around and progressing through those types of activities. But again, we won't have a better sense of any changes or modifications in his timetable until he actually starts doing some more aggressive baseball activities.
Is your focus now maybe more directed a little more on the pitching side before Sunday because you've addressed offense already, or do you feel like you still could make a move that
Well,
needs to be a bat?
we don't feel we're a perfect team on either side of the ball, offensively or pitching. So if there are opportunities to match up on whether it's a pitcher or another bat potentially, we'll continue to explore those. But again, it has to be that right fit and the right opportunity. But if it is on the pitching side, we're prepared to move on that front too.
Chris, when you talk about wanting to make deals or whatever 3 weeks ago, through this process right now, what has been the most difficult thing? Maybe a lot of teams still in contention, or teams wanting some of your best prospects? What's made it so difficult?
It's a combination of things. I think there were a few players in the market that I think teams had focused a lot of their attention on and didn't want to move on to some of the alternatives until that player cleared. And I think we've started to see over the last few days some of those guys some of those transactions start to be completed, and that's opened up some avenues for some of those other secondary guys. And I think that will continue, and I expect the activity and the intensity of the activity to pick up, obviously, over the next few days.
If someone were told you when you took over from Mark that you'd be in the position of being a buyer right now, I mean,
I'll take it. It's always better to be a buyer in July than a seller. So what we're trying to do is take advantage of that opportunity that's in front of us and hopefully make it an interesting second half.
can you have a weighing out the process though when you've got a young team and a core that you know to build on, and maybe this wasn't expected to be in this spot, and keeping it intact?
It is a balance. We have to balance our short-term competitiveness with our long-term competitiveness, and I think what we're trying to do at this time of year is really trying to improve our major league team, but not really significantly compromise 2012, 13, and 14, and that's a balance. But people have asked oftentimes, are there untouchables in an organization? And as a GM, there are no untouchables. There's always a right combination of players that you'll talk about for any player within your organization. And if we found a player that was a multi-year fit that we felt could not only help us in 2011, but help us in 2012 and beyond, we'd be open-minded to talking about almost anyone.
Chris, I don't know if this is something you can or would want to answer, but were you guys involved in the Beltran sweepstakes?
We were. I mean, we did make a serious attempt to try to acquire Carlos Beltran in the end, as Carlos had a full no-trade provision, and so he was able to give some direction to the Mets about his preferred destination, and for a number of reasons, and I can't go into the specifics of those because only Carlos could speak to them. I don't think we were his preferred destination, but we made an aggressive attempt to try to get him. We did feel like he was a premier bat available on the market, and we were aggressive in our attempts to try to acquire him.
Chris, can you clarify what Koske's free agency situation is? I know
Sure.
there's
Koskue is eligible for free agency at the end of the season, and just like any other free agent. Currently, he is what is classified as a Type B free agent, whereas if we were to offer him arbitration and he were to decline, we would be in a position to get a compensation pick between the first round and the second round.
Okay.
Now, if that's assuming that the same collective bargaining agreement's in place with the same qualifications for Type A and Type B status, as well as Koskue maintaining his status as a Type B free agent. But there are a lot of different ways that can go, but we're not limited at this point in terms of our options. He would be the same as any other free agent that's available.
Is your hope that he's a long-term Indian, or maybe?
Again, we're open-minded. I think we just want to get him over here, make his transition as smooth as possible, and allow him to play, and we can make those decisions at a later date once the season's over.
How's the fact that he's left-handed affect the negotiation? I know you talked about trying to get a little more right-handed power.
I think our focus was just trying to find ways where we can improve our offense. Left-handed, right-handed, we were open-minded. Again, we've lost two very good left-handed hitters in Grady Sizemore and Shin-Soo Choo, who aren't going to be back in the next week to 10 days to 2 weeks. So we felt, let's just find the best offensive player and a guy who can complement our team. And we felt Koskue was a guy that fit that criteria. And again, we'll continue to do what we can to try to find ways to complement the guys that we have in place now, including Koskue.